This happened a few weeks ago. I'm 34 now and have spent too long trying to rebuild my writing career after leaving aerospace engineering. I thought staying at a hotel near a space observatory might inspire me again. The place was old and barely kept up, filled with dusty photos of the moon, and the coffee in the lobby was strong and bitter. I was excited, but I'll never forget that first night. I sat in the small common area, scrolling through notes on my phone. That's when I saw him. The elderly man sat by himself, staring at the wall. He had wild white hair and a strange look in his eyes. I wasn't sure if I should talk to him. Maybe he just wanted to be alone, but I felt drawn to him, like he had something important to share. I approached him. "Excuse me," I said. "Did you work for NASA?" He looked up at me, eyes wide. "Apollo 17, he said, his voice low. I wasn't sure if it was excitement or madness. "You shouldn't dig into the pyramid. You think you want the truth, but it's darker than you know." I thought he was just a crazy old man, and I laughed it off. Maybe there was no pyramid at all. But when I returned to my room, I couldn't stop thinking about what he said. I felt uneasy, but pushed it aside. I had a job to do. The next day, I visited the local library. I found records that made my skin crawl. Documents about the Apollo missions spoke of the pyramid as if it were real. I started to feel the weight of something heavy pressing down on me. That night, in my hotel room, I tried to sleep. I kept hearing strange noises, static on the radio, whispers I couldn't make out. I looked outside, but the night was still, only the shadows of the trees swaying outside. I felt my heart racing, too fast as it could burst. The following night, I woke up in a cold sweat. I had a vivid dream about the pyramid, colors in the dark, shapes shifting. I felt like I was lost in a maze, trying to escape something unknown. I woke up shaking, unsure if any of it was real. As the days went on, things got stranger. I noticed dark figures darting outside my window when the sun went down. Each time I looked, they vanished. I asked the staff if they noticed, but they brushed me off, looking at me like I was the one losing my mind. Then, when I went to confront the old man again, he was gone, no trace. I wondered if I'd made him up. But then I found a note tucked under the hotel desk, written in shaky handwriting. It said, "Don't dig, it sees you." I felt a chill run through me. I didn't know what to do. I had to decide, should I keep searching? That night, the strange whispers grew louder. "Why are you still here?" They echoed in my mind. I turned to face the whisper, but there was no one there. Is it the pyramid, or is it me? I can't shake the feeling that something's coming for me. It waits, it watches. I couldn't shake the anxiety gripping me. The whispers haunted the corners of my mind. I had to find answers, but the thought of continuing to dig into the pyramid terrified me. Still, curiosity outweighed my fear. The next morning, I decided to return to the library. I needed more information about the old man's warning and the pyramid. Maybe there was a clue about why I felt so drawn to it and why I felt watched. The stale air of the library wrapped around me as I entered. I went straight for the archives, hoping to uncover more forgotten stories. As I combed through musty documents, finding accounts of Apollo 17's mission, I stumbled upon something strange. A faded photograph slipped from a brittle folder. It was the old man's wild white hair, standing beside astronauts, their faces obscured. He was there, a shadow in history. The caption read, "Jaime L. Ramirez, lunar geology consultant." My heart raced. This man had been part of the mission, and I had brushed him off like some crazy hermit. In my haste, I dropped the photo. It fluttered to the floor and slid under the adjacent table. I bent down to retrieve it, and that's when I saw it, a file case tucked in the far corner. My instinct told me to leave it alone, but I couldn't resist. I pulled it out and opened it, finding pages covered in black ink and odd symbols. The first line sent chills down my spine. "The pyramid is not just a structure, it is a sentinel." The words echoed against my fears. I flipped through pages, realizing they contained sketches of what appeared to be lunar landscapes, marked with diagrams of the pyramid, and notes, frantic scribbles. Then I heard it, a soft shuffle behind me. My breath caught as I turned around, half expecting to see the old man. Instead, a member of the library staff stood there, watching me with a brow furrowed in concern. "Are you all right? You shouldn't be back here," she said, stepping closer. I tucked the file case behind my back.
I'm fine, just doing some research. The words felt hollow even as I spoke them. Research? She replied, narrowing her eyes. You should leave things alone. This town has strange happenings around that pyramid. People have gone missing. My heart raced again. Missing? I finally mustered the courage to ask, what do you know about it? She hesitated, glancing around as if the walls had ears. Only what I've heard, and what I've seen. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Don't go looking for the truth. It finds you. Then she turned and walked away, leaving me alone once more with my thoughts. My mind spun. What was the truth, and why did it feel like a beast waiting in the shadows? I glanced down at the file case in my hands. I could not turn back now. But as I stepped toward the exit, my vision blurred. A dark figure stood at the entrance, watching me. My heart sank, and I felt a primal urge to run. That's when I heard the whisper again, low and menacing. You shouldn't have looked. I froze. What was it trying to warn me about? I jerked back, nearly knocking over a stack of newspapers.
The figure didn't move, just stood there with an almost palpable heaviness in the air. I squinted, trying to make out more details, but shadows twisted around him like a living thing. All my instincts screamed for me to bolt, but my legs felt glued to the ground. Who are you? I croaked out, my voice barely a whisper. It felt stupid as soon as I said it, but I had to know. This had to be the answer to everything, the thing I'd been searching for. He took a tentative step forward, and a flicker of recognition hit me. It was the old man from the park, the one who had warned me. I could see his signature white hair framing a gaunt face that looked more worn than I remembered. The sense of dread that washed over me was like ice water sinking into my bones. Do you have the case? He asked, his voice surprisingly steady. I instinctively hugged the file case closer to my chest. Why do you want it? His gaze bore into me, dark and serious. Because it holds information not meant for you, not meant for anyone. You don't understand what you're playing with. What do you mean? Frustration bubbled within me. I wanted to confront him, to demand answers, but my pulse raced with an overwhelming sense of danger. The pyramid is a doorway, he said, his tone grave. It acts as a sentinel, as I wrote. It watches, and its purpose is not yet known. The whispers echoed back, repetitively warning me. I felt a pit in my stomach open wider. Are you saying it's alive? I managed, but my heart sank further as his expression darkened. Alive? It's much more complicated than that. I've seen people disappear, drawn in by the allure of the unknown. You must leave now. I turned to run. I had to get out of there. The library felt like it was closing in, the walls whispering secrets meant to trap me. As I dashed toward the exit, I glanced back. But he wasn't behind me. I halted, searching through the rows of bookshelves, heart racing. Where did you go? I shouted. The library remained silent. I pushed through the door and burst outside, air rushing to fill my lungs. But the safety didn't last long. I glanced around the parking lot and spotted something glinting near my car. My breath hitched again. It was a small object, silver and oddly familiar. I approached cautiously, recognizing it as a pin, one I had only seen in photographs. It featured the emblem of Apollo 17. My heartbeat quickened as I picked it up, feeling the cool metal in my hand. Then I saw it, a piece of paper tucked underneath the pin. I opened it, and my pulse quickened even further as I read the scribbled note. Do not trust what you've seen. The truths are masked. Find me before it's too late. I glanced around. Would he return? The urgency in his note echoed menacingly in my mind. I needed answers, but fear knotted deep in my gut. With the pin and the note in my pocket, I took a deep breath, steadying myself. I would have to uncover more about the pyramid. But first, I had to find the old man again. The truth was just out of reach, and it felt like it was only getting darker. I drove home with the pin burning a hole in my pocket. Each turn felt heavier, my mind racing with what I had seen and heard. I needed to figure out what the old man knew about the pyramid and that mysterious doorway. The thought of it sent chills down my spine. Once inside my apartment, I tossed the pin onto the kitchen counter. My heart beat overtime. The notes, the warnings, everything felt like pieces of a puzzle I couldn't see.
I pulled out my phone and tried to research Apollo 17, thinking any detail might lead me to understand what this was all about. My hands shook as I typed. There was plenty about the mission itself, but references to ancient structures on the moon were scarce and vague. I skimmed through forums that talked about mysterious sightings and clues left behind. My mind kept circling back to the old man's words. The truths are masked. What did he mean? Suddenly, my phone buzzed. It was a message from my friend, Sarah. "Hey, you okay? You seemed out of it yesterday." I hesitated, then decided to ask her something that had been on my mind. "Have you ever heard about a pyramid on the moon? Like ancient ruins or something?" There was a long pause before she replied. "Just conspiracy theories. Why? Are you into that? Sounds wild." I didn't answer right away. The clock ticked loudly in the silence. A moment later, I decided to keep my thoughts to myself. "Yeah, just curious." My eyes wandered to the kitchen counter, landing on the pin. I needed to see it again. I picked it up and examined it closer. The worn metal reflected the light, drawing my focus to the engraved details. My thoughts spiraled deeper into its origins. Then I noticed something I had missed earlier, a faint inscription on the back. I squinted, trying to decipher it. "The past holds the key." What did that mean? Was this pin a clue? I grabbed my notebook and began scribbling down everything I could recall about the old man, the pyramid, and Apollo 17. Suddenly, I heard a noise outside, cutting my focus, a soft thump, like something heavy hitting the ground. I peeked out the window, but the street was empty. The evening air hung thick, making it hard to breathe. Was someone watching me? I shook off the thought and returned to my notes, but the unease lingered. I really needed to find the old man again. I couldn't let fear consume me. This wasn't just about the pyramid anymore. It was about figuring out why it mattered and why someone wanted it buried. A sudden, harsh knock on my door jolted me upright. Adrenaline coursed through me. Who could it be at this hour? I approached cautiously, my heart racing. As I peeked through the peephole, my breath caught in my throat. A shadow stood on the threshold. Then the figure stepped forward, and I recognized him instantly. It was the old man, his face a mask of urgency.
Before I could react, he shouted, "Let me in! They're coming!" My instinct screamed to open the door, but fear wrestled with curiosity. Who were they? What was happening? I hesitated, but the tension in his voice pushed me forward. I turned the knob and opened the door, ready to confront whatever came next. I opened the door, and the old man stumbled in, his eyes darting around my apartment like a frightened rabbit. "Close it!" he hissed, his voice low but urgent. I slammed the door shut and turned to face him. "What's going on? Who's coming?" He leaned heavily against the door, catching his breath. "They know about the pin," he said, glancing at the counter, "and they're after it. After us." I felt a shiver crawl up my spine. "Who are they?" "They're the ones who erased our past," he replied, his gaze serious. "The ones who want to keep the truth hidden." "Is it about the pyramid?" I asked, hope and fear colliding within me. "What do you know?" He took a deep breath, then moved away from the door. "There's so much to explain, but we don't have time. We need to go, now." "Go where?" I felt lost. My mind raced with questions. "Somewhere safe. The location of the pyramid is critical. The pin, it connects to ancient knowledge from the Apollo missions. It's a key." "A key to what?" The answer felt tantalizingly close. "Unlocking the truth." He glanced towards the window, the tension mounting in the air. "If we stay here, they'll find us." I hesitated, my instincts battling with my curiosity. Part of me wanted to bolt, to pretend none of this was happening, but I was in too deep already. "Okay, let's go." "Grab whatever you need," he urged. "We won't have long." I dashed to my room, tossing my wallet and phone into a bag, my mind still reeling. The old man's revelation felt like a gateway to understanding, but I couldn't shake the sense of danger. Nothing about this felt safe. I thought of the pin and how it had become critical to everything. "Ready?" he asked, his voice tense. I nodded, slinging the bag over my shoulder. "What about the door?" "Don't worry, they'll be focused on me." He turned toward the window. "We need to find a way out of the city. There's no telling how quickly they'll come." As we made our way to the window, the sound of footsteps echoed from the darkened hallway outside my apartment. My heart raced. I wasn't just running from a mystery anymore. I was running from a threat I didn't fully understand. "Go, go," the old man urged me as he pulled the window open. Just then, the footsteps grew louder, accompanied by muffled voices. "We know you're in there!" one shouted. "Open up!" I froze. This was it, the moment I had dreaded. "What if they find us?" "Trust me," he said, glancing back at the door, fear etched in his features. "Jump! It's our only chance." Without thinking, I nodded and climbed through the window, landing awkwardly on the grass below. I turned back to see the old man leap out just as the door swung open behind us. "Keep moving," he snapped, and we sprinted across the yard, adrenaline pushing us forward. That's when I saw it. A black SUV idling at the end of my street, dark figures inside scanning the area like hawks. My pulse quickened as realization hit. Whatever secret the old man held was worth something to them, and they weren't going to let us escape easily.
We dashed past the bushes, my heart pounding as we made for the alley that cut through the neighborhood. "This way," the old man shouted, grabbing my arm and pulling me into the narrow passage. The smell of damp earth and trash filled the air, and I fought to keep pace with him. "Why are they after the pin?" I asked, trying to stay focused despite the chaos around us. "It holds the coordinates for the pyramid site," he replied, his eyes scanning the alley for threats. "Without it, they can't access the secrets locked away." "Secrets about what?" I pressed. I needed something to hang on to, some explanation amid the panic. "About mankind's true history," he said, his voice low but urgent, "the kind of history they've buried." We reached the end of the alley and paused by a cracked wall. He pressed his back against it and peered around the corner, eyes sharp. "We need to keep moving. I have a safe house not far from here." Just as he said that, I heard the unmistakable roar of an engine. I turned to see the black SUV rounding the corner at the far end of the street, headlights cutting through the evening gloom. My stomach dropped. They were already closing in. "Come on!" He pulled me forward, and we sprinted down the block, weaving through shadows. My breath came in quick gasps as the SUV's tires screeched, and I felt a panic rising within me. "Are we going to make it?" I shouted, glancing back to see the headlights Grunhauser. "Trust me, look for the red door on the left," he shouted back, leading me toward a row of buildings. I spotted the door and ran toward it, heart hammering. Behind us, the SUV skidded to a stop, and the sound of doors slamming made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. We reached the red door, and to my surprise, it swung open before we could knock. "Get in!" a voice barked. We scrambled inside, the old man pushing me through first and following closely behind. The door shut with a heavy thud, plunging us into dim light. I turned to find a stocky woman with a buzz cut standing in front of a table littered with maps and strange devices. "What's happening?" she asked, eyes narrowing. "They're after the pin," the old man replied, panting. "And they're close. Damn it, we need to move fast." She grabbed a backpack and tossed it to me. "Load what you can. We have to get to the safe zone before they figure out where we are." I looked at the maps, some showing coordinates that matched the ones from the pin. "Is that the pyramid's location?" I asked, feeling a sense of urgency wash over me.
"Yes," the woman confirmed, shoving a device into her own backpack. "But we have bigger problems right now." Suddenly, the sound of pounding footsteps echoed outside, followed by shouts. My heart sank. They were already on our trail. "Here we go," the woman shouted, rushing to a small door in the back of the room. "This leads to the tunnels. We need to get out. No time to waste." I felt a rush of dread as we hurried after her. The old man shot me a look that conveyed both fear and determination. Whatever lay ahead, I knew it wasn't just our lives at stake. It was something far larger. Then, just before we entered the tunnels, I caught a glimpse of a figure through the window. A man stood there, scanning the building, and he looked familiar. My mind raced. That's when I knew. I had seen him before. The stakes were much higher than I realized. We rushed into the tunnel, the air damp and cool against my skin. My mind raced, focusing on the figure I had seen, the man who seemed to be everywhere, his presence lurking in the corners of my thoughts like a shadow. "Who was that?" I managed to ask, trying to keep the panic at bay. The woman glanced at me, urgency written across her face. "An operative from the organization tracking us. They don't take kindly to anyone messing with their plans." The old man moved in front, leading the way deeper into the darkness. "We need to find a transport. The exit isn't too far from here." I nodded, but couldn't shake off the feeling of dread. What did this man want with us? And what were those plans he was willing to kill for? We trudged to the tight, musty passageway, the echoes of our footsteps swallowed by the walls. It felt like we were moving through a tomb, closing in on a secret that shouldn't see the light of day. The weight of the pin pressed against my chest, a constant reminder of the danger we were in. "Is there really a pyramid?" I asked, trying to piece together the fragments of stories as we walked. "On the moon?" "Yes," the old man replied, glancing back. "It's been there for centuries, hidden from the world. The pin is the key to finding it. They want the power it holds." I felt a chill. Power? What kind of power? The woman let out a breath, her frustration evident. Ancient technology, knowledge of what humanity can do if freed from the shackles of history. "Or a weapon," I murmured, my voice barely above a whisper. The thought sent shivers down my spine. We reached a small chamber where the tunnel branched off into two paths. "This way," the woman instructed, pointing to the right. "The transport should be waiting." As we moved forward, the pounding of footsteps from behind us became sharper, echoing through the narrow tunnel. With every sharp sound, my heart raced faster. "Do you think they're following us?" I asked, fear threading through my voice. "They'll track us as long as they can," the old man replied, urgency creeping into his tone. "It's not just the pin they want.
It's everything it can unlock." Just as we turned a corner, a loud crash echoed behind us. My heart sank. "They're coming!" "Run!" the woman yelled, propelling us forward. We sprinted down the passage, the air thick with tension. In the distance, I could see a faint light. "Is there an exit?" I panted, desperately trying to keep pace with them. Yes, just a bit further, she replied, determination in her voice. Suddenly, the light ahead flickered, and I felt my stomach drop. The ground beneath us began to rumble, a low vibration that quickly escalated. "What's happening?" I shouted, panic rising. "Move! Now!" the old man urged, his eyes wild. Then the walls trembled violently, and debris started to fall around us. I barely had time to react as the section behind us collapsed, cutting off our retreat. I glanced back to see shadows approaching through the dust-filled passage, ominous and relentless. "We have to keep going!" Just then, I saw it. The light ahead wasn't just an exit. It was an opening to something much larger. I could feel it, a surge of destiny pulling me toward it, despite the danger looming behind us. Then everything went dark, as a large piece of rock fell between us and the exit. My heart raced as I stumbled, a scream rising in my throat. What lay ahead? I braced myself for impact, but it never came. Instead, I landed hard on the ground, the cool earth meeting my cheek as I tried to push myself up. The darkness felt heavier, the air thick and suffocating. I could hear the distant echo of voices, but nothing made sense. "Are you okay?" A voice cut through the haze. It was the woman. I turned my head to see her kneeling beside me, concern etched across her face. "Yeah, I think so," I replied, my voice shaky. I could feel the adrenaline coursing through me, but there was no time to dwell on it. "Where's the old man?" "He's looking for a way out," she said, glancing behind us. The rumble of rock had ceased, but the fear remained. We need to keep moving. I stumbled to my feet, brushing dirt off my clothes as I looked around. The narrow tunnel had morphed into a wider space, dimly lit by bioluminescent fungi clinging to the walls. The scene was both beautiful and eerie. "What is this place?" I asked, awe mingling with fear. "It's an ancient network of tunnels," she explained, her eyes darting nervously, "built long before us. This section may lead us further underground, away from our pursuers." Without waiting for me to respond, she started down the pathway. I followed closely, keeping a hand against the rough wall to steady myself. The chill of the tunnel seeped into my bones, and the crawling sensation of being watched prickled along my spine. "How long has this been here?" I pressed, curiosity pushing past my unease. "Long enough for secrets to be buried," she replied. "Legends say this was a place of worship. The pyramid on the moon, it's connected to this." "Legends? You think the pyramid is real?"
I asked, the gravity of that idea hitting me. "More real than anyone wants to believe," she said sharply, "and we may be running out of time to find it." Just then, an echoing crash reverberated through the tunnel, followed by shouting. My heart raced. "That sounds like—" "Run," she commanded again. There was no hesitation in her voice this time. We sprinted forward, the passage twisting and turning in ways that felt disorienting. I could hear the distant shouts of our pursuers gaining on us, clarity breaking through the fog of fear. After what felt like an eternity, we reached a junction. Two passages lay before us, one dark and narrow, the other wide with a glimmer of light fading into the distance. "Which way?" I gasped, glancing back toward the sound. "The light," she said, urgency in her tone. "We have to take the risk." We darted toward the opening, but as we approached, I noticed something strange on the walls, symbols carved deep, glowing faintly. I slowed, captivated. "Wait, what are these markings?" "They're clues," she whispered, her eyes searching mine. "But we don't have time to decipher them. We need to—" Before she could finish, a loud crash interrupted, and a dark silhouette emerged from the shadows behind us. I froze as I recognized that face. It was the man from the surface. He stepped into the light, a smirk pulling at the corners of his lips. "Did you really think you could escape?" he taunted, his voice echoing ominously. Instantly, dread filled the space between us. Something snapped within me, and as the woman pulled me forward, I turned back just long enough to see the figure lurch into motion, a threat as tangible as the walls around us. "Go!" I shouted, the urgency piercing through my fear. But somewhere in my mind I knew this wasn't the last I would see of him. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was just the beginning of something much darker. I sprinted down the passage, heart pounding as the darkness enveloped us. The woman led the way, her urgency in every step. I could hear the intruder's footsteps echoing behind, relentless and menacing, urging me to push further. "We have to find something to block him," I gasped. "Keep moving," she shouted back, her voice strained but firm. The tunnel around us narrowed once more, and I could feel the cold stone pressing in on all sides. The air was thick with moisture and the faint scent of decay. I fought the urge to panic. Then I spotted a pile of stones just off to the side. "Here!" I shouted, grabbing two hefty rocks.
I turned back to the woman, who was glancing over her shoulder, fear flashing in her eyes. Just drop them to slow him down. I heaved the stones toward the passage we had just run through, and they clattered loudly before coming to a stop. Let's go, she urged as I hurried to catch up with her. Behind us, the sound of the stones shifting was followed by an angry shout. The man was close, and we knew we didn't have long.
We rounded another corner, and the bioluminescent markings grew brighter, illuminating strange symbols and patterns that seemed to dance across the walls. My curiosity flared once more, but I shook it off. Not now, I muttered to myself, focusing on the task at hand instead. The distant shouts grew louder, reverberating through the stone. A new sound caught my attention, an odd humming noise, resonating from somewhere further ahead. "Do you hear that?" I asked the woman. "Yes," she replied, her brows furrowing. "It's coming from the end of the tunnel. We need to find out what it is. It could help us." The thought of hope sent adrenaline rushing through me. The humming escalated as we ran, a low frequency that felt almost alive. With each step, I could feel it vibrating through the stone beneath my feet. "There," she pointed ahead. A soft blue light flickered at the mouth of yet another larger chamber. I never remembered coming into this section of the labyrinth, which made me question if we were truly safe here. As we rushed forward, the light enveloped us, revealing a vast space adorned with intricate carvings similar to those we had seen earlier. Symbols filled the walls and formed a mosaic depicting various celestial bodies. In the center of the room, a circular platform glowed brightly, pulsating in sync with the humming sound. "What is this?" I breathed, drawn in by the mesmerizing display. "It looks like a rudimentary altar," she said, her eyes wide. "Could this be a portal?" "Portal? To where?" My mind raced. The throbbing energy radiating from the platform made me uneasy. "The legends," she replied, still gazing at the platform. "What if it connects us to the pyramid? It's—" Suddenly, the loud crash behind us interrupted, followed by footsteps pounding toward the entrance. I shot a glance back, my heart sinking. The man was almost upon us. "Come on," I yelled, pushing her toward the platform. "We have to figure out how this works." As we reached the altar, a surge of warmth coursed through me, spreading from my fingertips to the center of my chest. Sensing something shifting in the air, I turned just in time to see the figure slip into the chamber, an implacable force. "No," I gasped. But just then, everything went dark. The humming intensified around us, and I felt myself being pulled into the light. Panic coursed through my veins as reality twisted, and I couldn't help but wonder what was waiting for us on the other side. When the darkness lifted, I found myself standing on a hard, cold surface, the light replaced by an expanse of shimmering stars stretched out before me. I blinked, trying to orient myself, the rush of what just happened echoing in my mind. The man, the tunnel, the altar. "Where are we?" I managed to whisper. The woman stood beside me, shielding her eyes against the scintillating glow above. "This must be the lunar surface," she breathed, astonished. I turned my gaze down. The ground beneath my feet shimmered, like crushed crystals reflecting the cosmos. "Wait," I said, feeling both ludicrous and surprised. "We're really on the moon?" "Yes, and we may not have long before they find us," she replied, glancing back at the swirling portal we had emerged from. I felt a deep turmoil within. The weight of this revelation hung heavy in my heart. Just then I was struck by something startling. A towering structure loomed in the distance, piercing the dark expanse of space like a phantom. It was a pyramid, vast and ancient, bathed in blue luminescence. My pulse quickened. "That's it," I exclaimed, pointing. "That must be the pyramid the old man talked about." "Yes," she affirmed, both awe and fear flickering in her eyes. "But we need to reach it before they come through." Our feet moved on instinct, propelling us forward. The ground beneath felt foreign, yet strangely familiar, as though we'd stepped into a place written in dreams. As we approached the structure, something nagged at the edges of my mind, an unsettling feeling that we weren't alone. "I don't feel safe," I admitted. "Keep moving, we're close," she urged, her tone steadfast despite the anxious tremor in her voice. Once we reached the base of the pyramid, the surface glowed more intensely. Carvings snaked their way around the structure, reflecting an intricate network that seemed to pulse with energy. I hesitated, glancing back toward the portal, still vivid and swirling behind us. What if they follow us? "We have to unlock this," she insisted, stepping forward. "It's our only chance." The woman closed her eyes, placing her hands against the cool, smooth surface. I joined her, feeling an urge to connect, to tap into something ancient and profound.
The energy surged, and symbols began to flicker to life beneath our palms, rising like invitations to a hidden world. Suddenly, the ominous shadow of movement gripped the air. "They're coming," I shouted, adrenaline rushing through my veins. "Without breaking contact," she said, "just focus." The inscriptions responded, swirling with a newfound intensity. A deep hum resonated from within the pyramid as a door appeared, shifting like liquid light. I glanced back just as the dark figure emerged through the portal, imposing and fierce. "Open, damn it," he growled, advancing quickly, his eyes locked on us, burning with urgency and malice alike. "Now," the woman shouted, and with all my strength I pressed against the shimmering doorway. The energy intensified, and I could almost grasp the lines of fate converging in that moment. Then it happened, a blinding flash. The door gave way, and we were pulled in, darkness crashing around us like an ocean's tide. Reality twisted violently, and when it released its grip, we found ourselves in a vast chamber. The air hummed with energy.
Walls glistened with artifacts, but what struck me most were the numerous star maps etched into the stone, tracing connections throughout the cosmos. "What is this place?" I mumbled, awestruck. "I think it's a repository of knowledge," she whispered, wide-eyed. Our moment of wonder was short-lived, as the echo of heavy footsteps started growing louder, clearer. "We need to hurry," I urged, swallowing panic as I scanned the dimly lit room for answers. "Look," she pointed across the chamber, where a shimmering sphere sat at the center of a circular platform, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. "That might hold the secrets we need to stop them. But what if it's a trap?" Fear darted through me, but an equal pull of curiosity tugged me closer. "Everything about this is a risk," she said, and her determination sparked some courage within me. "We've come this far." As we stepped closer to the sphere, shadows hunched and distorted behind us, weaving through ancient light. The figure from before, still cold and relentless, emerged from the shadows. "You think you can outmaneuver us," he sneered, eyes flicking toward the sphere in both interest and greed. "Don't look back," the woman warned, and before I knew it, we pressed onward, hands reaching out toward the sphere. The moment our fingers brushed its surface, a jolt of energy surged through us, illuminating the room, blocking out the shadows. Visions flooded my mind, knowledge of the ancients, of civilizations lost to time, the truth that lay hidden in the folds of history. And suddenly, colors exploded before my eyes, images of the pyramid, star patterns, and then fragments of the past weaving into one. The deeper meanings connected like constellations on a map, mesmerizing yet terrifying, as whispers swirled around us. "Hold on," the woman cried, as the reality around us shifted again. I felt the pull intensify, lifting me off my feet. We were thrown back into a whirlwind, racing toward a new understanding, but the sense of danger loomed close. A chilling realization struck me. While we could grasp the potential of ancient truths, our pursuers were still hunting us. With one last surge of light, the sphere imploded, and I held on to the feeling of uncertainty and revelation, unearthing truths beyond any comprehension. And as reality spun out of focus again, I knew our journey was far from over. All this while, unanswered questions lingered on the horizon, entangled in shadows. Had we truly escaped, or were we only opening ourselves to an even greater unknown? As the darkness enveloped once more, I couldn't help but wonder if some truths are meant to remain hidden, sealed behind the gates of mystery with far-reaching consequences, waiting to reveal themselves when least expected.